Welcome to the Farmish Kind of Life podcast, where we talk about homesteading stuff and life stuff and everything in between. Join me, Amy Dingman, as we explore big questions on a little farm. Hello, everybody, and welcome back to the Farmish Kind of Life podcast, where we talk about life and homesteading and all the messy, beautiful, unexpected things in between. Today is June 3rd, 2025, and this is episode 316. Today we're going to talk about something that kind of hits home for me, and that is what happens when you hit midlife on the homestead. Because there is a ton of content out there for people who are just getting started, for people who are building it all from scratch or going big or making plans and raising kids and doing all the things. But what about when you've been doing this for a while? What about when your back starts to hurt a little bit more than it used to and your hips hurt a little bit more than they used to and the house is a little quieter than it used to be, and you start asking questions like, okay, wait a second, do we still need this many chickens? Or wait a second, does it still make sense to grow this particular thing or raise this particular thing when I know I have a place that I can get it easier or less expensive than growing it or raising it or doing it myself? Or maybe, wait a second, does it make sense to have such a busy homestead right now when right now in my life I'm needed away from the homestead way more? And all those things kind of start running through your head. So if you are in a season of reflection or of maybe downsizing or just different amounts of energy being available to you, or if you just feel weird that your homestead doesn't look like it used to, I think this episode will be good for you. But first, what has been happening on the Lifestead? Well, we hatched out more chicks from our homemade incubator. We had a much better rate of hatch this time. We hatched 16 eggs out of 20. There was actually a 17th that was trying to hatch. I tried to help it hatch, which I very rarely do because it never turns out. And this also did not turn out. So, but a much better hatch rate this time. So not sure what the difference was, but I'm thankful we got more chicks. I don't need these chicks. I don't know what I'm going to do with them. But I actually, right before I pressed record today, I actually had to move them out of my office because we run the incubator in the house, and then I usually just transfer them to a big tote in my office, and they hang out with me for a couple days, depending on what the weather is outside. If it's really, really cold outside, then I just keep them inside with me. And it was time for them to go out because I don't know what it was about this batch, but man, they were loud. And I thought, I'm not even going to be able to concentrate on recording this podcast episode with all that chirping behind me. So they actually just went out to the barn, and I put them with the batch of chicks that we hatched about 6 weeks ago. Now, some people are going to be like, you can't do that. And some people are like, yeah, just throw them all together. I only have 6 of the 6-week-old chicks left. Do we call them chicks at this point? Are they pullets? I don't know. Whatever. The 6-week-old birds, because we have given some other birds to some other friends who wanted to start with chickens. And so I have 16 baby chicks going in with 6 bigger chicks. And my hope is that this gang of tiny chicks going in there to the smaller number of larger chicks is going to be fine. I keep running out and checking on them. It seems to be fine. The big chicks are like, oh my gosh, what is this? So we will check. If it doesn't work out and it looks like they're going to get bullied, then I will just stick them in another spot. I have plenty of places on this farm that I can put baby chicks. And you know what? That's probably the problem. That's why I keep hatching chicks, because I have a million places I can put them, right? What the heck? I think I told you last week that we got our outdoor pen finished. Did I tell you that? I don't know. But we did get the outdoor pen for the big birds finished, the new one, got the netting over the top, and the Muscovies, however you say it, and the chickens are together in this outdoor area. And can you put chickens and ducks together? Some people say you can't. Some people say it's fine. Some people say that the biggest issue is going to be the male ducks are going to try and have a romantic date with the female chickens, and that doesn't work because their parts do not fit together, and they can end up actually killing the female chicken, the hen. I don't think that's going to be an issue because these Muscovies, they're as big as geese. And so I just don't think that's going to happen. And there haven't been any issues thus far. They're just all chilling out and having a great time together. So that's what I have to say about that. Rabbit kits, we actually, 30 days is today. As I'm recording this, there are no kits yet, but This is my rabbit Beyonce, named after Beyonce because of a song. And then someone suggested, it could be Beyonce, like bouncing like a rabbit. So that's how she got her name. So Beyonce, she has never successfully been bred. I think we tried it 3 or 4 times. This time it really looked like it took. And I have given her nesting box, and man, is she pulling the fur, and she's putting the fur in the nesting box. And so the crazy thing is I was like, okay, I think she's bred this time. And I was just assuming that this was going to fail, because first time moms, sometimes it doesn't work. But man, I don't know. She's putting all that fur in the nesting box, and it looks like she knows what she's doing. So we will see. We will see what happens with these babies. What else? Went shopping the other day. I don't like shopping. It doesn't matter what I'm shopping for. I don't really like shopping. But we had to go to Runnings and pick up some stuff for the farm. And it's so funny because, like when you're a little kid and you go to the store and then your parents are like, if you're a good listener, if you behave well, you can pick out a candy bar when we're done, right? Maybe you didn't hear that, but I heard that sometimes. Or, I had friends who heard that. And I feel as an adult that if I don't throw a tantrum in the store, if I'm a good listener, if I'm on my best behavior, that now I get to get things like apple trees or blueberry bushes or a flat of herbs, So it's very different growing up. But I bring that up because it's kind of funny, because shopping with me, my husband has been with me long enough. We've been married 25 years this year, and he's been with me long enough to know that shopping with me is a process, and there's a thing to it, right? Like I go on, I'm like, okay, we're going to get this done. And then at some point, and it doesn't even have to be very far into the shopping trip, I go through this shutdown where I'm just like, I'm done here. I'm done. And my husband said, you can watch it happen. Like he can watch me and he can know it's coming. He can know I'm on the verge of being done. Okay, now, and then just nothing productive is going to happen after that. And so it was very funny because now he's just like, he knows that I need to have some snacks. I need to be filled up with food. I need to be, there's like a whole thing. And we try to shop quickly because I don't last very long shopping. And he knows we've only got so much time before Amy does a shutdown. And I'm telling you, if I was a 3-year-old, I'd be laying in the aisle just like, I don't know that I would tantrum, but I'd just be like, done. I'm just going to lay down. I'm done. Just drag me out of here. I don't care. So maybe what I'm saying is some of those 3-year-olds that are tantruming because they are done shopping, like, I feel you. I feel you, buddy. I feel ya. So we bought these 2 new apple trees because over the winter, rabbits had absolutely destroyed 2 of our apple trees, a few of our apple trees, and people said they're not going to come back, and some people said wrap them and see what happens. And so we did have a couple that came back. We had 2 that we thought were dead. Nothing had leafed out. We're like, whatever, okay, so we'll just go get 2 more and we'll replace those. Well, when we went out to replace them, like we have our 2 new trees, we're going to dig the hole, we're going to take the dead one out, we're going to, do all that. What we realized is there's green stuff coming out of the bottom of these trees. Like there's shoots coming out of the bottom of the tree. And I was like, what the heck? Because I'm new to planting trees. I mean, we've done it in the last 3 years, but I plant trees and then I'm like, okay, grow. I punt through everything that I do. And so I went to some of my groups and I said, okay, what's happening? I have shoots coming out of the bottom of these trees. Like, are they dead? Do we just dig them up anyway? Do we let them go? Got lots of different opinions on it, but basically what was happening is, yep, the tree is trying to grow, and depending on where that shoot is coming out of, it might be the root stock, because most trees, they're grafted. It's one tree and another tree, and they're kind of put together, right? And so if the shoot was coming from below the grafting point, that's the root stock, which might be like a crabapple tree or some other kind of pollinator tree. It might not even be a tree you necessarily want, but it can be used as a pollinator. If it's coming out above the grafting, then that is the tree that you bought, whether it was a Honey Crisp or it was a Freedom Apple or it was Candy Crisp, whatever it is. And then that is the tree that will grow. My husband and I decided we have plenty of space. And so we decided we're just going to let those trees grow. We cut off the dead part, and this stalk that's coming up, I don't even know. We're going to let it grow and see what happens. It'll take a few years probably. If it's just a crabapple tree, I don't care. I don't care. I love trees. It's awesome. And it's another thing to pollinate the other trees. So we're just going with it. And in 3 years, I can tell you what happened and whether it was a good idea or not. I don't know. I just really need you guys to know that I'm so punting through this homesteading thing. I'm so punting through everything I'm doing here. I most of the time don't know what I'm doing, and I learn as I go, and I screw up a lot of things. And honestly, that's what we all do, right? Unless you grew up in this lifestyle and learned it from your ancestors and you're just doing all the same stuff they did, we're all learning, right? We're all learning. All right, let's head over to the main topic and talk about what happens when you hit midlife on the homestead. So something changes when you hit midlife. And I don't know if we want to define what midlife is here, because I don't know if it's a certain age or it's a certain stage of life. And I feel like we all kind of arrive to midlife differently, depending on, like when we had our kids, when we got married, all sorts of things, where we are in our work life. I have friends who are my age, let's see, I'm 46. So I have friends who are my age who still have little kids, right? And both of my kids are old enough to legally drink. So we're in different stages of life just as parents. So, take this whole midlife perspective shift as you will and however it relates to you. But something definitely changes when you kind of hit that midlife kind of thing. And I think part of it is that, at least, especially here on the homestead, you stop trying to do all the things and you start asking what actually matters. Because it's not about growing more anymore. I think it's about growing smarter, maybe, and maybe even quieter, maybe more rooted. I feel like you start redefining your goals and you realize that just because you can do something, like just because the opportunity is there, it doesn't mean it belongs in this season of your life, right? You start to look around and you ask, why am I doing this again? Or is this still feeding me as a person? Or am I just doing it because I've always done it? And it's not that you stop caring, but it's almost like you stop overreaching. And that's kind of a powerful shift, y'all. That's a powerful shift. And I'm going to tell you what, there have been some times I have been standing in one of the barns or standing in the kitchen or sitting on the front step looking at just what we have here or how we do things. And it just it hits you all of a sudden. You're like, why are we doing it this way? Like, why are we still doing it this way? Or do we even still need to do it this way? And just that, looking at it and having that honest moment of, wait a second, we've always done it this way. We've always put this here. We've always raised this. We've always it's just the way we've always done it. And you get into this rhythm and into this system. And one day you're like, hold up. What are we doing? Does this still make sense? And I would say that a big part of that is when, okay, let's say that your kids grow up and they leave, right? Or your kids grow up and maybe they're still living at home, but they're never home, right? They're living their own life. They're renting from you, okay? But they're living their own life, right? Your kids are adults, okay? And that, oh my word, that is a mixed bag of emotions, right? Because there's this relief when your kids grow up because you're like, we all survived. Nobody killed each other. Nobody died. We made it, right? Whew, okay, we did it. But there's also grief because those are your favorite people, right? And now the house is really quiet. But the work and the chores and all the stuff that you've been doing on the homestead forever, all of that is still there, even though you got less people. And now you're standing in your kitchen thinking, wait a second, do we still need to do all this? Because the meals will get smaller. Your grocery bill is going to drop. Even though food is really expensive right now, your grocery bill is still going to drop because you're feeding less people, right? And when you have built your life around feeding a house of more people with home-raised, homegrown, from scratch food, that shift will mess with you. Let me tell you something, it will mess with you. And you look at your garden and you've been planting this ginormous garden and you start wondering, wait a second, do I need to have such a big garden? And then maybe your garden gets smaller. And you look at that chick order that you just put in and you're thinking, maybe we don't need as many chickens, right? Because there's not as many people in the house. And maybe there's less people in the house, or maybe like you're not even eating most of your meals at home anymore. Maybe, I mean, you never know what the shift is going to be as you move through life, right? But at some point you're looking going, wait a second. And it's not that you're giving up, it's that the rhythm has changed, like the rhythm of your household has changed. That happens in midlife. I mean, it happens in lots of different places in life, but definitely in midlife. And then you got to try and wrap your head around that and make it work. I feel like one of the weirdest parts of midlife on the homestead is something I guess we could refer to as the pause. Which is funny, right? Because immediately everybody's like, menopause. No, that's not what I'm talking about. There's like this pause. It's like you hit this season where you're not building something new. You're not chasing the next thing. It's like you're just maintaining what you've already built. And when you are used to being in hustle mode all the time, getting to that place where you're just kind of maintaining what you've built feels really, really weird. Really weird. You feel like you're not doing anything. You're like, wait a second, what's wrong here? I should be like, it should be chaos. There should be hustle. I should be trying to figure out all the things. Okay, wait a second. We're just like maintaining what we've built here and what we've grown here. Something feels wrong. And it can almost feel like you're going backwards. Especially when you realize, you know what? Maybe we don't need 6 freezers anymore. Maybe we don't need 3 freezers anymore. Maybe we don't need to grow 57 tomato plants. And that pause or that scaling back, it can mess with your identity a little bit, if I'm being honest. But it's also where a lot of clarity lives, I think. When you start working through that, there's some clarity there. There's some other things that happen in midlife. There's another layer to this season because I think it's very, very common for our caregiving roles to shift. Because your kids might be grown, right? And your kids don't ever stop needing you. It's just that they need you in different ways. And your parents are getting older. And they also need help. And suddenly, the homestead might slow down, not because you're lazy, not because you've given up and decided we're not doing this anymore. It's because life has sped up in different places. You might be driving people to appointments. You might be helping with paperwork. You might be picking up grandkids if you have grandkids. And you are emotionally and physically invested in other people. And that is not failure. That's not failure at all. I think what that is love showing up in different places. Love showing up in a different direction, right? But that changes the homestead. Something else that changes as you get older, probably the most obvious thing that we haven't talked about, your body changes. Let's talk about it. Your body, midlife, homesteading, right? You can still lift those feed sacks. You know you can, but you're going to talk about it for 3 days afterwards, aren't you? Because you move slower and you need more breaks and things just take longer than they used to. And I'm going to be real honest with you. I thought I was going to be okay with this because what I thought was going to happen is that I was going to age gracefully. I was going to stay active and eat well, take care of myself, which I do. And I was just going to keep trucking along like nothing had changed. But here is a very loud spoiler alert. Even a healthy 46-year-old body is not a 30-year-old body. I do not care what the infomercials say. I don't care what the supplement companies say. I don't care. It's different. And yeah, it hits your pride a little bit. But it also teaches you patience. And it teaches you humility. And it teaches you creativity. And you figure out new ways to do the things that really matter and the things that you really want to continue to do. And you let go of the ones that you don't want to do. Because you know what? You only got time and energy for so much stuff. So you have to have some honesty there about what still needs to stay and what just needs to not happen anymore, right? So here's what I want you to know. In this midlife homesteading thing, right? You are still a homesteader.
even if the homestead looks different now. You don't have to expand. You don't have to build. You don't have to scale to stay valid. Because just doing what you're doing right now, just like holding ground, that is super important work too. And it's fine. And if you are in a slower season or a quieter season or a, oh my God, what now season, you are not alone. Because this right here, this is part of the story. It's not the prequel. It's not the aftermath. It's right now. And right now is just as valuable as the hustle that got you here, right? So there you go. Thank you so much for hanging out with me today. If this episode gave you a little peace or maybe some clarity, or maybe it just made you feel a little less alone, would you share it with somebody who needs to hear it? I would love that. I would love that. All right. Thank you so much for hanging out with me today. Until next time, you keep doing your thing and let that be enough. Talk to you soon.
Hope you enjoyed the show today. To continue the conversation, visit our website at afarmishkindoflife.com, find A Farmish Kind of Life on social media, or drop me an email at amy@afarmishkindoflife.com. Peace, love, and bacon, y'all. Stay Farmish.